Hey, we're live.
We are live. Jason is making his way into the studio, but we wanted to jump in because I hear last night was the Grammys, and I know that
No,
you are a
not quite. Not the Grammys. Not quite. Try
so.
again. One more try.
All right, it was the what's that award show for television shows?
The Cable Ace Awards. We're very excited. No, it was the Oscars. Come on, it was the Academy Awards,
And
Alex.
this is for films.
Hmm.
Okay, there's a lot of
What
award shows.
did you see a film last year? Like, did you see a 2024 film?
I honestly do not know. Yes, but I saw trash. I
Trash?
watch whatever action comedies
Oh, you
slop.
saw a bad movie. I thought
Oh,
I was like, I didn't see trash. Tell me more.
that's how I know you're a film buff. If I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I saw mutants puking on their own shoes. Really? Was it good?
Hmm.
Um, because I have very young children, watching movies is usually a multi-day affair, so we don't get to it
Sure.
very much, and we tend to watch very relaxed action comedies just to enjoy some quiet time. So I am not the target audience, Lon. So instead of asking me questions, I'm going to put it to you. Did your film of choice win Best Picture?
I liked Anora. Anora won Best Picture. Sean Baker's film, sort of a comedy drama. It's about a exotic dancer and a sex worker who falls for this the son of a Russian oligarch. His father then puts a kibosh on the relationship, and it becomes a sort of almost thriller where she's sort of trying to hold this thing together that she sort of had pinned her future on while wealthy Russians are trying to break them apart. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Mikey Madison, the star, also won Best Actress. She's great. Sean Baker won Best Director. It would not have been my number one pick. I thought of all the nominees, Nickel Boys was
Nickel
my
Boys. What was
Nickel
Nickel Boys
Boys.
about?
Nickel Boys. It's actually Ramel Ross's scripted directorial debut. He's a celebrated documentary filmmaker. It's based on a true story about these young black teens in '60s. I want to say Mississippi, and they're arrested. They have to go live in this sort of it's like a home for troubled youth, this sort of
Sure.
reform home, but '60s Jim Crow South. It was very abusive, and it's based on a real Dozier school for young boys. I think it was called the Real School. This one is called the Nickel Academy, hence Nickel Boys. But the interesting thing about the movie is it's all shot from first person perspective. So you have multiple lead characters, but you're only ever seeing things from their POV. And the cinematography, the way that technically they pulled this off is incredible. Like
Well, shout out.
no other movie you've ever seen, really. And to be jumping between multiple different POVs, it's really a fascinating choice.
So Nickel Boys was your choice, didn't win. Honora did win, worthy. What was the I feel like they put in an upset to these things to shock and awe the audience, like, oh, I can't believe X or Y won when B or C should have. So was there any upset of note that people might be jawing about?
I mean, most of the winners were like in the realm of people who predicted. Mikey Madison winning over Demi Moore from The Substance and Best Actress was a bit of a surprise. Also, an animated feature, The Wild Robot, that DreamWorks animated film, was sort of the expected winner. And then Flow, this sort of independently produced Latvian animated adventure film, ended up winning. The
Nice.
fascinating, the fascinating thing about Flow is it was made entirely in Blender, which is a like a
Yeah.
video game engine that
Yeah.
these Latvian animators figured out how to repurpose it and use it to make this really beautiful movie, which is very cool.
Shout out Latvia.
Yeah, they're the first ever Academy Award won by Latvia, so congratulations to them. And then in Best International Feature, Brazil won its first ever Academy Award for "I'm Still Here." They were very
So
excited.
I want to say I believe Latvia is a key ally of our friends in Ukraine. So lovely to
It
hear
is,
that
yeah,
they're doing quite well. I want to go back to I believe you said Demi Moore and The Substance. Now
yes.
I have heard of Demi Moore.
Well, there you go.
No idea who she is. I mean, I know she's an actor, but
Come
like,
on, very famous, very famous.
yeah, well, no, famous enough that I know her name. But if
Mhm.
you were like Alex, name me 3 Demi Moore films, I would not have one. So tell me about her performance.
I mean, A Few Good Men. You probably heard of that
I
one.
did,
No,
yeah.
no.
What's that
Okay.
about?
A Few Good Men was an Aaron Sorkin play that they made into a film in
Oh,
the
it's the You Can't
'90s.
Handle the Truth
You Can't
movie.
Handle the Truth. Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore is like Tom Cruise's co she's on his legal team.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, keep going. Two more.
This I could do way more than 2 more. You got
welcome to This Week in Films, everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, but the substance was interesting. It's a French director. It's basically a horror. It's like a comedy horror film. Very rarely do those get nominated for big year-end awards. So that was a little unconventional. And Substance was up for a lot of it was up for Best Picture. It was up for the screenplay. I believe Coralie Farget. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's French. I believe she was up for director. It did not win in any of the main categories. It did win for makeup and hairstyling because it's body horror. It's basically the setup is Demi Moore, who is 62 in real life. She plays this sort of actress, once beloved, who's sort of now seen as being too old, over the hill. Her career is sort of on the downturn. She discovers this new drug, black market, that's sort of promoted to her specifically, called the Substance, and it basically generates a younger version of you, like the sexiest, hottest, most ideal 20-something version of you. And then you live as both of these bodies, and there's like a whole procedure that you have to do to like switch off which body contains your consciousness at one time.
Okay, so this is now more my domain. This feels like science fiction to me.
It's sci-fi horror, yeah.
Okay, so
but you have to there are very specific rules. You have to, because you're one person, so you can't live as both. You got to switch off exactly at the right time and maintain this whole procedure. And of course, things go wrong.
But Lon, isn't that partial? And I haven't actually seen this, but we did talk about it on Twist once. Isn't that kind of the thing behind Severance as well?
It's sort of like Substance is physical and Severance is just your mind. But otherwise, yes, the idea of one person living multiple parallel lives is similar in both. Yeah, Severance is the idea that you could have an implant in your brain that you could switch off. So when I go to work, it turns on, and then I have a work persona, and that work persona doesn't remember my non-work persona, and my non-work persona doesn't remember my work persona.
Is that meta commentary on how we're required to live in the capitalistic era?
Yeah, Dan Erickson, who created Severance, actually said the idea for Severance was he wished he could turn off his brain when he goes to work, and that was where the whole show came from.
All right, come on, let's start.
Jason comes on right when we're doing anti-capitalist agitprop. Yeah.
I'm saying let's get started. Audience is waiting.
We're live, by the way, Jason.
Oh, we're live.
We're live.
Then that's different. I didn't realize we
were entertaining the noties with Oscar talk and.
Okay. I like that. I like you guys starting the banter while I'm.
The Substance versus Severance is what
perpetually late. All right.
Did you know that Demi Moore is a famous actress?
I do. I know Demi. I've met her a couple of times. We follow each other on the socials. I haven't talked to her, but she. I met her because her husband or her ex-husband, got into investing and used to come to events.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, all right. Hey, everybody. Let me just shout out a couple of noties. Mr. E, how you doing? Producer Maddie, hi. Tech Nochi 200, P Lucky
Techno
212, P Lucky 212. Hi to Palmer Lucky 212. Let's see, Eric Trump Forever Pump. How you doing, Campbell? Happy. I'm joking, people. I'm joking. All right, let's get started and do a show. Let's do a show.
Chef, one quick thing. Do you have your QuickTime recorded?
I do. I'm at 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Shure MV7. Shot out of a rocket today. I'm shot out of a rocket.
Brilliant. Live on all streams. Have a great show, guys. Bye.
All right, great. These Canadians, they're so, what's the word, Lon? Canadians. They're very, the 51st state.
Polite.
They're very kind, but they're also a little verbose. I'm trying to get them to be quick they're so nice and they're so polite.
They're very polite.
Let's not make any Canada jokes while Court's producing the show, because we're going to end up with a graphic upside down, the Canadian soundtrack in the background.
I mean, how do you make fun of Canada? The 51st state is my top 5 of my 57 states. All right. So, Lon, why don't you turn your camera off? We'll get started. I'll bring you in for a segment or two. Baba Booey to you. Okay. I mean, I could say Baba Booey to Lon, but he's just so capable. It makes no sense. There's a whole
Baba
joke.
Booey is
Hey,
goodbye.
Wolf. I can do the Gary voice.
The problem
maybe-
is you're so capable to like refer to you as Baba Booey makes no sense. The whole joke of Baba Booey was he was
Right.
making mistakes, and you're like
Right.
always leading in charge of.
I see.
You're, if you had to be a Howard Stern fan from
Yeah.
80s to 2010 to get the reference before he went woke. All right, let's get started. Here we go. Lon, you can drop off. You don't know how to. Yeah. Who's running the show, Court? Let's go. There you go. Okay, 3, 2. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Monday, March 3rd. I'm Jason Calacanis. He's Alex Wilhelm. A lot is going on. We might as well get right to it. Yesterday, our fine president did Pump 2.0. Trump 2.0 has his second crypto moment. And Alex, I broke, and I am continuing to break my 72-hour rule. What's the 72-hour rule? We wait 72 hours, whenever Trump says something, to try to interpret it. Now, this one is directly involved with startups, so it's, there's no way not to lead with it. And everybody's got an opinion on it. But why don't you tee up what happened yesterday? And then we'll talk about what's happened since. And my, as many of you are here, if you're here on This Week in Startups, you're here to hear my opinion as well and my take on it. So I'll give you my hot take. Please don't aggregate me, bro.
All right. So going back in time a little bit, the Biden administration, famously, I would say critical of the crypto industry, led to a lot of bad vibes between the Democratic Party and crypto entrepreneurs here in the United States. Then Trump won, partially thanks to crypto support, and there was a lot of anticipation that he would be a very crypto-friendly president. One idea that had been floated, Jason, was the creation of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. The idea, put some of the national wealth into Bitcoin, a scarce asset, and then over time it will appreciate, in theory, and then help us resolve some of the debt. Now, probably not enough to make an enormous dent, but it wasn't, you could kind of see it. Then this weekend, we got this instead, which is a little bit different. Instead of what we thought Trump was going to put out, he instead launched in a first post over on Truth Social that there will be a U.S. crypto reserve, not a Bitcoin reserve, and that it would include assets such as XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Then everyone asking, well, those aren't the assets we expected. He did a quote truth, I believe.
Retruth.
A retruth. Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
That Bitcoin and Ethereum, the actual best known cryptocurrencies, would be included as well. This led to a pump in the prices of these tokens. As you can see here, Jason, we've prepared a chart. That's the wrong chart. 10 points to Alex. That's the European defense chart. We'll cut that. It led to a pump.
Okay. So Trump likes to jump the gun on all announcements. So we know that. And remember, rule number 1 in Jason's 7 rules of interpreting Trump is Trump says a lot of wacky shit. That's rule number 1. Trump says a lot of wacky stuff. That's rule number 1. Rule number 4 is always wait 72 hours by trying to interpret what he says, because see rule number 1. And almost always his process is to, do process journalism, process PR. I guess we'll call it process PR.
Sure.
Which is, process journalism is you're like, hey, our tip line said FTX is a house of cards. We don't know it's a house of cards, but you kind of run fast and loose. Tons of criticism of process journalism because you can, slander people, or you can just kind of go down rabbit holes. It feels unfair and not well thought out.
Yeah.
Well, Trump does the same thing in terms of PR and announcements. They're not well thought out. They're not planned. People don't know what he's going to say. And he got that from Howard Stern. Howard Stern's reason, the reason for his success, made famous in a great film called Private Parts, based on his autobiography, was this famous scene where Paul Giamatti, and we'll cut it in here in post, but Paul Giamatti, who is his manager at the station, he gets the results because he's trying to fire Howard Stern, who's been forced upon him by NBC radio. And that guy, Howard Stern, refers to him as pig vomit. So you can get a sense for their relationship. And he says, I don't understand. Why are people listening to him for 47 minutes? That's unbelievable. It's like a record. And it's like, because they want to hear what he's going to say next.
Right.
And then he says, oh, okay. Well, tell me about the people who are its detractors. And it's like, oh, they listen for 97 minutes. He's like, what? They listen longer and they hate him? These are the people who hate him? Why is that? And they said, number one, reason stated, they want to hear what he's going to say next. So here we are. Trump 2.0 says a lot of stuff. The world went crazy on this because now you have to wonder, why those three?
Mm-hmm.
Why those three? Well, they are three of, I think, if we open Coin Market Cap, and you can do that now while I'm talking, Coin Market Cap tracks the market capitalization, the total value of crypto projects. In fairness to Trump, I believe, it's right now Bitcoin, Ethereum, which he put in his follow-up, and then XRP, Tether, which is a stablecoin, so you can kind of take that out, BNP, Solana, USDC, Cardano. So of the top 8, you take out the stable coins, which I think is 2 of them, this top 6. The 5 he picked are 5 of the top 6, right?
Yep.
And I don't know what BNP is, but...
BNB is the Binance House token.
Oh, okay. So is that like a stable coin or it's just their house crypto? Okay. So
it's just their house crypto, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, anyway, in fairness to Trump, he did pick the top 5 if you're going to pick a crypto reserve. The problem with all of this is after the meme coin, the Trump coin, which then the SEC, we talked about this, I think, on Friday, I believe my interpretation of what they did was they wrote regulation around Trump's behavior, or I should say a different organization that the Trump organization runs, which is called World
Liberty. It's WLFI, I believe.
World Liberty. So there's this World Liberty company, and this is where, everybody's mind's going to wander.
Mm-hmm.
World Liberty Financial Inc. I believe this is run by one of his children, and I believe that person is Eric Trump.
Yes. And here is... Never mind. No, you keep going.
Yeah. So now everybody on the left is going to say this is a pump and dump. This is a Trump pump. There was Trump Pump 1.0, which was Trump coin. And now here we are. And the SEC had to make an announcement about meme coins. Mm-hmm. And I believe they kind of framed them around Trump's behavior to kind of get him out of hot water. This is not the type of country anybody wants to live in. Now, you will not hear Republicans complain about this. I'm a moderate. Let me just state that from the beginning. I'm pro-crypto. I'm anti-fraud. That's all you need to know about me. I'm pro-free markets, and we can put me aside for a second. When you do things, you have to look at the game on the field. The game on the field right now, Alex, and I'll stop on this and get your reactions, because your reactions are also as a libertarian, I would describe you as a liberal.
Leftitarian,
but you're also pro-free market. So you're like a Clinton-esque Democrat.
Capitalism, democracy, gay rights.
Okay, fantastic. Love it. Check for me on all those boxes. So the left is now going to have a field day with this, and they will weaponize it. And this is what's really, really disheartening to me. And the right will ignore this, just like the left ignored, the Hunter situation, which was pretty gnarly. The left ignored Biden's cognitive decline. I believe that'll ultimately, and we'll see what Jake Tapper's new book comes out with, but I think ultimately that will wind up being one of the great cover-ups. And the second time we've covered up a president in cognitive decline, first one, of course,
Reagan,
right?
Yeah.
So now this is going to result in the same chaos we had during Trump's first term and into Biden's, which is lawfare. You can easily weaponize this because Eric Trump, I think, works at World Liberty Financial.
And he's become effectively the biggest crypto supporter amongst the Trump family. Jason, you actually retweeted him and he said, buy the dip, and had the Bitcoin B symbol, if I recall correctly.
And he did that how many days out from this crypto?
Not many.
All right.
I don't have an exact timestamp on that.
And then I think today he retweeted somebody kind of questioning him giving financial advice. And then he's like, oh no, now my advice is basically to hold. So here's the challenge, I think. So let's just start with point one. The challenge in all of this is going to derail, or I believe it will derail, what I believe is some of the good work of the Trump presidency. I am, everybody knows, a never Trumper who was a very clearly none of the above double hater in this last election. That being said,
yes,
whoever wins, I give 100% of my support to my president. He's my president once he becomes president of the United States.
Yeah.
I'm old school, Gen X or whatever. Criticize it if you like. I'm not part of the resistance on either side. I am, hey, let's steer the president towards greatness. Call balls and strikes as best we can. Now we're going to go into crazy lawfare, I believe. Attorney generals, civil suits, and they're going to drag Eric Trump, World Liberty, anybody who donated, Michael Saylor, the Brad Garlinghouse from XRP. This is going to drag all of them into lawsuits and chaos by local attorney generals, because obviously the federal attorney general is selected and seems like pretty partisan. So anyway, let's go with my first piece, or anything you want to add.
Well, I want to jump in on the you won't hear about this from the right, mostly, but to my surprise, Jason, there have been some notable voices of dissent. So I want to grab, here's Joe Lonsdale, 8VC, I believe he's
friend of the pod. Yep.
Friend of the pod. And Joe says, for those folks on the audio version, taxation is theft. It should be kept to a minimum. It's wrong to steal my money for grift on the left. It's also wrong to tax me for crypto bro schemes. Efficient defense courts, national parks, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Cut it out with these schemes, guys. This led, Jason, to another interesting bit of commentary from technology circles. This is from Nikita Beer, of course, a well-known founder in the social media consumer application space. And he says, quote, in response to Joe, this is getting egregious. Every 2 weeks, there's a kickback to the family. Completely delegitimizes all the work Doge is doing. And so when you say specifically that this is, not what you were hoping from the administration and that you wanted Doge to do well and other things, I agree. It's depressing to see what seems like really unnecessary side quests of grift when some folks were pretty content with what the administration was doing before this stuff.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think people agree. Lonsdale is a true independent thinker. You're not going to agree with him about everything, obviously, but I will give him intellectual credit points, because once you become a partisan and you're part of a political party, rule number one is never criticize anybody in the party. Carry the party line, vote the party line, period, full stop. And we see that when you have so few people break ranks, when, you ever get a vote in the Senate or something like that, right? It's always party lines, always party lines. This is why I choose to not be part of either party, because I like to just be able to tell you, my audience, and to have discussions from first principles with you, Alex, and other folks.
Yeah.
Pardon my tickle in my throat there.
No, you're good.
We'll edit it in post. I need a cough button here.
Can we just double the volume of that in post? Just make it a little bit more amplified.
Exactly. Sorry, folks. So I give Joe Lonsdale a lot of credit. I saw David Sachs came in, and I just give a little disclaimer here.
I was going to say,
David Sachs and I are friends for 20 years. We're partners in the All In podcast. He is no longer on the All In podcast officially. He does drop in as a guest, as he has himself stated. So I think he's come in 2 or 3 times since he took office. He's been very clear. He divested all of his crypto. That's a public tweet he did.
Yep.
Number 2, he said, wait for the announcement. So he is enforcing the 72-hour rule. Nothing's been said yet. So he is the crypto czar.
Yes.
Well, just for, good hygiene here, when we refer to David Sachs, please don't reaggregate me. Please don't weaponize me against my friend and say, oh, Sachs's bestie and business partner is anti-Trump. He's a never Trumper. He said Trump should go to jail, whatever. It's not going to work, folks. It's not working when you try to weaponize Trump versus, Elon. It's not going to work when you try to weaponize me versus my friends. We can be friends and disagree on things. Yeah. That's called America.
Also, everyone should chill out with the parasocial relationships. And, I don't think we need to break up friendships. That seems to be like a bridge too far.
It's so lame. What are we doing here? Yeah. If we're going to have a great democracy and we're going to lean into what's great about America, I can disagree with Sachs. Sachs can think I'm an idiot and dunk on me on Twitter. It's all good, folks. We can still be friends. He can dunk on me. We disagree profoundly about Ukraine. We agree on so much when it comes to crypto. And in fact, I believe he is the best actor in the world. And he is one of the most moral, ethical individuals I've met in my life. Now, he's part of an administration. So the previous thing I said is rule number one when you're part of an administration is not attack other people in the administration because they weaponize that against you in this sort of context. So you're not going to hear J.D. Vance throw Trump under the bus. You're not going to hear Trump throw, Tulsi Gabbard under the bus. They're going to be thoughtful about these things 99% of the time. I'll give a little bit of room for sometimes Trump does something.
You said, what was the first rule of Trump?
Oh, yeah, he says a lot of stuff. Right. So he's going to say a lot of stuff.
He pops off sometimes, yeah.
All right. So that's, let's just read Sachs's tweet out loud, please.
Yes. Quote, and this is in response, by the way, to the Joe Lonsdale tweet, which is one reason why I wanted to have that up so everyone can see it. So
please read it verbatim. So we
in response, quote, nobody announced a tax or spending program. Maybe you should wait to find out what's actually being proposed. And this actually brings up a big question, which is, okay, if we're going to put these assets into a trust, how does it work? How do we fund it?
Yes.
Where does the capital come from? At what price are we buying in? Who's going to custody the assets? There's really a million questions to this, Jason.
Yes.
And I wish that we had the full package up front. It might have cleared some of the air that has surrounded this because criticism, I went out and tried to find criticism and compliments about this crypto reserve as Trump put it out. Very easy to find criticism, even amongst the right-leaning technology crowd.
Yes.
Hard to find any praise of it. I found one tweet from Sean McGuire of Sequoia saying, legendary. And that was pretty much where my search stopped.
Yeah, drive-by compliments or drive-by hits are not helpful. And this is not a dig to Sean. He's allowed to pump up his guy. But it's not helpful to do to have drive-by comments. What you want is a thoughtful comment that we can discuss here and we can unpack to learn from. So let's try to, we'll try always here, as we call Balls and Strike, to look for those thoughtful comments. Thoughtful comment from Naval, I thought was pretty great.
Yes.
Because he attacked it and assessed it from a technological viewpoint. 23 hours from the taping of this, he said, the U.S. taxpayer should not exit liquidity for crypto. Should not be, let me start again. The U.S. taxpayer should not be exit liquidity for cryptocurrencies that are decentralized in name only. So he's talking about everything but Bitcoin. And this is super important. I agree with him wholeheartedly. Bitcoin is decentralized from day one. Now, there is somebody who owns whatever, I don't know, Satoshi owns some large amount in a wallet. So perhaps we'll argue at some point if that person cashes those in and we see that wallet become active, that, hey, this is some grand conspiracy, but it's decentralized, right? That person let go of it. XRP is the opposite. And in fact, if you pull up the lawsuit from the SEC in 2020, one part of which XRP won because they couldn't prove, that people, the recap of it, I believe, is they couldn't prove that retail investors, they couldn't prove that the XRP founders were selling to retail because the retail trading was occurring on platforms. So they couldn't sort of connect those dots. Doesn't mean that they're not guilty of stuff. It just means they couldn't make that connection. And then there's still an active lawsuit, I believe, for the other part, which is they did a $1 billion unrecognized security. I believe that's obvious. Then I see Brad Garlinghouse stumping for Trump. I believe that he's a major donor to politicians. I don't have the details on it. We should look those up. But he was at the crypto ball, et cetera, and XRP supports everything, and Splashy Cashy's XRP all over the place, which was the nature of the lawsuit. They were talking about how much XRP is being, gifted around. Somebody in our comments here made a joke that all they have to do is give $1 billion in XRP for free to the. Brad should just give $1 billion in XRP for free to become legal to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. That's actually a pretty good speeding ticket. I kind of like it on face value as an idea. But yeah.
The appearance, though, is you donate money to the president and then they put your asset into their reserve, therefore, as the kids say, pumping your bags. And I want to circle back to the David Sachs thing, because I did see people saying that David Sachs' firm Kraft has backed a number of crypto firms. True. And I do think it's great that the firm and Sachs divested their direct holdings, but I don't think you can really unlock an LP investment firm relationship, is my guess. So my presumption is that he's put his percentage in Kraft to the side, but it still exists in some way. So I think he's doing what we can expect him to do there. So I have no beef with that. But people were saying that Bitwise, one of the companies in his orbit, has a number of funds that hold crypto assets, and those are the ones that were being picked. But I just want to say, I went through their filings today. I went through the fund prospectuses and so forth. And as far as I can tell, these are just things that are investing in the top 10 cryptocurrencies, for example, much like we pointed out. So when it comes to conflicts of interest, you have to do the work, which Sachs is doing by divesting and missing out on a pump, to his defense. But it is tricky when you are an investor in companies that have exposure themselves, because you can only disentangle yourself so far. So I don't think the criticism is fair that he is being malicious. I just think that he's stuck looking bad. And this is why in government, we try to even avoid the appearance of conflicts of interest. And that's why this is sticky.
So, and you can be sure that Sachs doesn't need any more money, and that he's divesting. If he says he's divesting. That doesn't mean other people aren't doing tremendous on this. And there was a report, and this is the thing about crypto, and this is where Eric Trump, I believe, is going to become like the Hunter Biden theme of this presidency, for better or worse, fair or unfair, because he says a lot of stuff too. So now you got Eric Trump saying how brilliant it was to, he's blocking me, by the way, so I can't pull it up myself, which is fair. I have been a bit critical at times. He says how brilliant it was that they did all this on a Sunday. So he's kind of like almost taunting regulators. He's taunting folks that with his tweets. Here's an idea: say less. Best advice for Eric Trump: your dad's the president. Your dad's being the crypto president. The crypto lobby, I mean, I think the crypto lobby, the numbers I've seen thrown around are extremely high. If we read what he said, I love the genius of announcing a strategic reserve on a Sunday when traditional markets are closed and Wall Street sleeps. For the first time, retail investors win. So he's trying to kind of save himself there. Like, I'm on the side of retail. Traditional finance better catch up or will quickly become extinct. The world no longer runs Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And then he adds World Liberty 5 to
hashtag BTC, hashtag ETH. The gist here for folks who don't know what we're talking about is that the stock market opens defined and runs for defined hours. Jason, it takes holidays off. It closes early. Sure. It's only for a set period of time. Crypto markets run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so if you wanted to make a trade on, say, Coinbase after this, you'd have to wait for the markets to open, more or less. Whereas crypto is always trading. Doesn't matter what time of day or day of the week.
Right. So here's, let's move to predictions so we can wrap this up.
Okay.
Number one, this is a terrible idea. Number two, just a terrible idea. And the reason it's a terrible idea is because it's going to launch just so many legal issues. And it works against what I think are the three most important things Trump is really mandated with doing. Okay. If you look at why Trump won, I think number one was immigration and the border. I think he's done a reasonably great job on that. He's deporting 500 to 1,000 hardened criminals per day. We haven't heard much about it for 2 weeks. I'm sure it will pop up again, but that was actually something the overwhelming majority of Americans wanted to see. 80-90% of people want to see, legal, thoughtful immigration. Number two, Doge. People wanted to see like waste, fraud, and abuse. People want to see the end of waste, fraud, and abuse. He's doing that. So you might not agree with how it's being done, but that's like the second part of the mandate. And the third part is, again, and you might not like how he's going about it. We won't get into Ukraine situation, but stopping foreign wars and diplomacy. I believe
Wow.
actually he's very good at that. I think he will end the Ukraine war where Biden didn't. It's going to be very hard for people to give him credit for that because of the stylistic way about the stylistic way this is going down. But I think he will come to a great agreement, a grand bargain, if you will, with China. I think people don't like the stylistic points on what's going on in Gaza and Trump Gaza's, like pure lunacy with the AI video, pure lunacy in reality television with what happened in the Oval Office. I actually think kind of crazy like a fox. I've talked about it before. Crazy's on your side. I think he will on those three fronts. We'll be sitting here in 2 or 3 years. I think he could accomplish those three mandates in the first half before the midterms.
Okay.
This is the kind of stuff that will derail everything.
So can I just say, totally off topic, but I was waiting for you to say inflation, because to me, if I was to pick the number one thing that won Trump the last election, it was inflation, partially due to spending in the Trump administration won, partially due to Biden won. But
the inflation went up during Biden. You're correct.
Yeah. But
and the spending in
before.
Trump 1.0 impacted that. Correct.
Yeah. So that's what I thought was the number one issue. The other things I think kind of nest into that, in my view. But that's off topic. I was just surprised to hear your
I think
notes.
actually that's a really good punch up. I do think the American public was fed up with the inflation issue, while at the same time the stock market was at record highs and unemployment was at record lows and wage growth was reasonable. Putting that aside, I don't think the president actually has too much of an impact on that. I mean, I think they can screw it up like the Fed did, but I don't think the president actually has too much impact on that. So, but you are right. That is part of the mandate. And I think we saw the inflation handle look pretty good, right? Just last week.
The inflation handle looked pretty good.
Yeah. So
there's some conflicting data there. I'm worried about GDP, but I just want to pull up something regarding the Trump family, crypto, and the situation. Producer Court found a Telegraph article that said that Trump's Truth Social company, which is TMTG, Trump Media and Technology Group, says it'll put up to $250 million into assets, including cryptocurrencies. I just chased that down via their IR website, and that does appear to be correct. And they may put it into Bitcoin and similar cryptocurrencies. So you could very much argue that if TMTG, which Trump owns a big chunk in, followed through on its public announcement, Trump just pumped his own bags to an absurd degree.
Right.
And
so if that's all true, we got to put all the ifs and caveats there.
Ifs, allegedly, caveats, and so forth.
Yeah.
What a disappointment, though, Jason, that this is what we're doing. Because all he had to do, Trump, was say, we're going to do a thing that's going to yield Bitcoin for the government. We're going to put it into a special reserve. And he would have gotten such a big PR win from the crypto community, from a lot of folks on the internet. And it would have been kind of a slam dunk. Would it have been a policy that changed the world? Probably not. But it would have been a nice pat on the head for his fans. Instead, we're here. And this is like the thing about Trumpism that I don't get. It seems that there's a way to do things that his audience would like, and then he does something else. And I'm always like, perplexing to me.
Yeah. Another name, I'll just put it out there to track, that people have been whispering to me over and over again, is Justin Sun.
Yes.
So he is a businessman. This is CNN, if you trust it or not. A businessman who pumped $75 million into the Trump family-backed crypto token finds himself in a fortunate position this week as federal security regulators are hitting pause on their civil fraud cases against him. Again, we're going to just see this over and over again. Whether these things are the normal course of action or not, everything is going to be assumed to be a corrupt grift going forward.
Well, I just pulled up some reporting and some tweets from Sun, and it does appear that he put another $45 million into World Liberty Financial after previously put it in 30. So that is a $75 million purchase into an asset controlled by the Trump family, more or less. And then you'll note that I think his suit was dropped. So,
okay, you want me to clean the whole thing up for you?
Hit me.
I've talked about this 20 times. A crypto tax.
Ah, yes.
The old crypto tax. Now,
yes.
Sachs retweeted Joe and said, hey, wait for the details. Okay, perfect. I don't advise any of my friends on what's going on. I stay out of it. So I'm arm's length, the same way Sachs sold his crypto, Sachs sold his J-Coin. I am not collaborating with Elon on Doge, Sachs on whatever, Robert Kennedy. I know some of these people. I am not collaborating on anything because I want to call balls and strikes here and on All In. Again, independent. I voted Republican 1/3 of the time. Democratic 2/3 of the time. I'm not part of either party. I'm a double hater. I'll keep repeating that because people keep trying to frame me as some libtard, like crazy, like Kamala Biden supporter. I said very clearly I wasn't going to vote for them. So I have been saying this for many years. Here's a tweet from December 14th, 2024. If the government wants to build a strategic reserve in Bitcoin crypto, they should place a tax on it, that being crypto. Every time you buy or sell it, you pay a small percentage in actual cryptocurrency to the government's wallet. Just 50 basis points or even 5 basis points would result in massive holdings, and most crypto folks would gladly pay it in order to have a legal framework. I mean, hey, and this is my little cheeky at the end, gets me in a little bit of trouble. I mean, it would be a shakedown and a protection racket, but probably worth it. Just balls and strikes here. Very simple idea. Trump comes out and says on Friday at the White House Crypto Summit, which I think is great that the White House is doing a crypto summit. I think it's great they're going to do regulation because, again, we talked about too hot before Gary Gensler, too cold with Gary Gensler. Let's try to get to just right because we're in a just too hot time period right now, obviously, with all this. Trump comes out and says, here's how it's going to go. Everybody in crypto pays a wonderful crypto tax. Crypto transaction tax. Not a tariff. It's the crypto transaction tax. It's going to be wonderful. Everybody pays 10 bips. You may have heard of bips. Bips is a little word. B-I-P-S. 10 bips. They pay the VIG to the crypto reserve. Problem solved. We're not spending any taxpayer money. It goes directly to taxpayers. Maybe we do a crypto dividend. Maybe everybody gets a little crypto. Wouldn't that be a nice, Alex, a little crypto for everybody? Alex, from This Week in Startups in the first row of the...
I thought we were broke, Mr. President. I thought we were flat broke.
Okay. No dollars. Listen one more time. He's a low IQ lib. Okay.
That's
true.
true.
Gay rights. I love the gays. Okay. Gays for Trump. Huge. Alex Wilhelm. Low IQ Alex Wilhelm. It's a tax. Okay. Crypto people pay it, not the Americans. So that I think this would solve.
Mr. President, are you saying that crypto people are not Americans?
Have you met him? Alex, very interesting people, maybe from Mars. I mean, maybe Elon will find crypto people on the red planet. I mean, he's capable of doing that. Okay? And it's possible here. I got to go at humor here, but what do you think of my idea? Just say, we've always planned. Everybody knows Trump reads my tweets. Everybody knows that. That's definitely true. People are sending his tweets to him because he did the golden visa based on my 500K, just added a zero. So I said do 50 bips or 5 bips. He's going to add a zero. 5% or 50 bips will be his range.
What's the average rake on like a, I don't know, a 10, 20 no limit hold'em table at a casino?
A great question for Grok or ChatGPT, but I think it will wind up being like $10 an hour per person. So $100 an hour. You play 20 hands. That means $5 a hand. That's my guess. Is like because that's what they charge in big games. Yeah. When you play a big game, they don't take it out of the pot because the pots get really big. So instead of taking a percentage of the pot, at 30 minutes they have a timer. Yeah. And at 30 minutes, whoever has the button pays the entire thing. Or at 30 minutes, everybody throws in $6 or $12. So at a big game, you're paying like $100 to $250 an hour to the casino. So you play a 10-hour session, they make $2,000. The dealer's getting paid probably $10 an hour, $20 an hour. They get minimum wage plus tips. Yeah, but tips fly to dealers when things are going well. Ooh, yes, so that's my analogy here is this is fine. Let's go do it. Fine. We'll just do a little 10 bips, 15 bips. I'll take 20. I can see how that would make a lot of sense. I just think that you'd run into people who couldn't see the good for the, oh my God, it's tax, and would therefore kind of lose their mind about it. But I think, Jason, we can close with this. When we have all the details, we will bring this back up. But in the meantime, after crypto prices went down and people began to lose some of their crypto enthusiasm, here is a shot in the arm, which is good for startups in the sector that are building stable coin tech like Stably from the Twist 500. And I'm going to close. Has Stably been on the pod yet?
They have not been on the pod yet. They are on our list to invite. And also,
let's get them on. Let's get them on. And then how many of your Twist 500 interviews do we bank? We have 3 in the bank, 2 in the bank?
We have 2 this week, Thursday, Friday, 2 in the bank. I think we will have 4 by Friday. So 2 currently. Well,
we're doing so good with the live news program. I just might start releasing yours like on Tuesday and Thursdays, if you don't mind. That's like solo dolo. So you got to do an intro for them. And then,
can we close with a joke though on this sector?
On this sector?
On this story,
I mean, yes, we can.
Okay, this is a little meme
crypto people want to have the government out of your wallet unless they can have the government in their wallet.
They want the government out of their bag, but holding their bags up.
I mean, that's basic. I mean, it's so ironic. The crypto people were like, we're the anti-government money system. We are outside of government. We don't want anything to do with government unless we can get a quick pump out of this. And that's really the problem. And consumers could be hurt. Anyway, What else do we have on the docket today? What are our choices to go to next?
All right, moving on.
What was that funny?
I was going to do a joke, but then you moved on. But
I thought you wanted me to tell a joke. Give me your joke.
Oh,
Here we go.
no, Jason, no. To the contrary. Jacqueline Melinek, previously of TechCrunch, now she runs a company that does essentially investor relations for tokens. It's kind of a cool company. Anyways, she had a great tweet, and it shows a guy covering his eyes, throwing a dart towards a dartboard. Says, headed to the local dive bar to help the White House pick more cryptocurrencies for their crypto strategic reserve. And I think this summarizes people's views.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
10 points to Jackie. Okay, let's talk about Ramp, Jason. This is a big round
Ramp
that's
cards.
coming to place. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's go back in time. Let's talk about what Ramp is. Ramp, when it launched back in 2019, was considered to be effectively a Brex Me Too. A Brex also ran a Brex clone. And that means that it was working on corporate cards. And it had this early idea of what if we helped our customers save money? So it had this, we'll go through your expenses, we'll find duplicates, we'll help you save a couple of bucks. And honestly, I talked to Eric Gleiman back in the day when it was smaller, and I was a little bit perplexed by the bet because to me, Brex was doing well. It raised a bunch of money, seemed to have a lot of brand cachet, Jason, at the time. But Ramp has grown from strength to strength to strength, adding new products, raising new capital. It did have a valuation dip after the boom, but now the news is that Ramp is now worth $13 billion after a $150 million secondary transaction. A lot of money moving around here, big numbers. My first impression is twofold. One, big secondaries mean later IPOs. And isn't it great to see fintech back in the sun?
Fintech is just such a great space. We had Vlad on Wednesday. I don't know if you caught that episode. He's just tremendous. And the thing that's great about fintech and technology is fintech has just traditionally had so much friction, and it's been so slow and arduous and painful to do anything. When I'm working with companies like Mercury, with Ramp, with Robinhood, with Wealthfront, any of those platforms, Coinbase, and I own shares in Wealthfront and Robinhood, I think out of that cohort. And that's it. I think that's it. And I think Mercury and Ramp have both advertised on This Week in Startups. So I guess on a
disclosures, yeah.
Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. The advertising on here is like literally 0.1% of economics for me in my life, or less than 1%, let's say. So you don't really have to worry about that too much. When I have to deal with a traditional bank, which I have to do because I can't use these new services. I wish I could for venture funds, right? And for audits and for accounting, all that stuff. I literally have people coming to me for wet signatures. You know what a wet signature is?
Is that literally like involving ink?
Yes. And I'm like, what planet are we on? Like, how about if this is so important, you have me state my name into a video and take a picture with my IP address and a timestamp to validate it's me, like I just did for my Twitter subscribers. In order to be an influence, in order to collect money on a platform like Twitter, they make you verify your identity. How do they do it? You take a picture of your driver's license front and back. You take a picture of yourself. When you do remote health, they have you do something similar, right? I don't know if it's a video or a picture. This is how the world has moved. If I'm opening up an account that some bank, why don't you turn on my camera? Let me take a picture of my driver's license, take a picture of myself. You got the IP address, you got my phone number. Then you call me back with a live person, make sure it was me. Did you just take your picture? Then send me an email. You can do like a triple authentication with a person with technology. You send a link to my email address on file. You call me on the phone with a human being. You ask me my test questions. You have a second phone number from somebody at my company. and you check them as well, which by the way is going to become the practice with AI, because everything I just described, you could use AI to try to fake, right? You can make a deep fake.
That was literally what I was thinking. Like IP addresses are spoofable, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah. So in order to like download somebody's Bitcoin or every dollar out of their account, you want to get them on the Zoom, you want to get them on the phone, you want to do 2 or 3 of these things live, see what shirt I'm wearing on a FaceTime call, see what shirt I'm wearing on a regular phone call. You get the idea. So be cautious out there. But this is why these companies are so great. As you remove friction from a product, consumption goes up. As you make a product faster, consumption goes up. As you offer a wider array of services that delight customers and solve problems for them, engagement goes up, revenue goes up. I think that's the story of this cohort of, I think they call them neobanks.
Yeah.
Nubank. Actually, I have equity in Nubank through a venture firm that invested in it, and I never sold a share. I actually have some exposure to Square, which is now called Block. Again, I didn't directly invest in those two. I don't want to take credit as an investor. I was in a fund, so I get credit.
I mean, still, it's good to hold stuff that's done well, and Block's historically done pretty darn good.
Oh, did you see that? I'm right behind Pelosi and inverse Kramer on the rankings. I had a tweet. Somebody took my J trading portfolio.
I did see that.
Benchmarked it. I'm up 35% apparently in the last year. So I'm like 2 points behind. I'm 2 points behind Pelosi tracker. God damn it.
So here is Jason's tweet. But sadly, he is losing to the opposite of Kramer. Burry, famously the man who bet on the right side of the subprime meltdown. Pelosi,
44%, 43%.
And then there's our boy Jason right there.
35%. Somebody emailed me about doing an ETF. Speaking of like fintech, so I could put. There's ETFs are like, you can set them up for a couple of $100,000 or something, and then people can invest in your ETF and you can get fees on it or something.
So
I could create an ETF, dump my Robinhood into it.
Yeah.
This is a feature Vlad should do. Like if you have over $1 million in holdings, you should be able to press a button and create ETF.
There was a company that was doing this. Keep talking while I find this.
Well, anyway, yeah, the company that's doing it, I think, is that one. I don't want to mention their name because they're kind of using my likeness to promote their product. And I'm a little iffy on like that being legal, but I like to support startups, but I would prefer that you get my permission and pay me if you're going to use my likeness or offer me a payment. So don't shout them out if
no. There was a startup that lets you essentially track your friends' portfolios and you could buy the same stuff as them. So this idea is not novel, but with technology, back to your point, making things easier and faster in finance, why couldn't you spin up an ETF for a couple $100K, charge back to bips, 50 bips or 100 bips?
Yeah, I mean, people might want to follow it. I mean, this is my vision for Twist 500, by the way, is to create a Twist 500, like a $10 million SPV or something, and then put one of my people on buying secondary in the top Twist 500 companies. And then you're like, hey, here's Twist 501. Twist 500 is 10 million. You can go to twist500.com, by the way, and see this project we're working on, top 500 private companies.
It's good fun.
Yeah, I think it's good fun. And, we're going to kind of track them here. And then as they become public, we take them out and there'll be a bit of a competition for them over time. My idea would be, hey, you set up a Twist 500 and then you say to the fund manager, myself, and like maybe I have a collaborator on it, see what the current secondary price is on the secondary markets. Let's build an index of them. So then if I wanted access to those companies and I wasn't directly investing in them, I could put like $1 million of the 10 million in.
Sure.
And then somebody goes and says, okay, we looked at the price of Superhuman and Calm on the secondary market. Here's the last valuation, current valuation. We know management. We asked, Raul and Alex and Michael over at Calm and Superhuman, would they mind if we buy secondary directly from their folks, or we bought them on the secondary market, and then you get exposure.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of interesting, right? Because there's the Destiny 100 or something, the publicly traded one that has SpaceX, and it kind of flies all over the place. I talked a lot about it. Anyway, lots of interesting ideas. Congratulations on the huge valuation to the team over there. I know we used ramp cards. I don't know if we currently use them, but I remember during a conference we had a getaway, and it was really cool. Maybe, I don't know if they gave you one, but we gave ramp cards to everybody who was traveling. I think we might be using Mercury for this now or another company. But anyway, I remember specifically a couple of years ago, we used ramp cards. 50, people, not 50, maybe 25 people working on a conference. I think it was actually for the All In Summit 1. We just issued them ramp cards for their expenses. And we just said, use this for your expenses. We see the expenses coming in. And then, for Ubers, we can do an Uber account because they have Uber for Business. But
Yep.
for everything else, here's your ramp card. And then we can turn them off or take them from, $1,000 limit per card down to zero. So if somebody goes, AWOL and takes, their ramp card and wants to go to 11 or whatever the club in Miami is and hit the strip club or the, erotic review at 11, the most damage they can do is 1,000 in funny money.
I don't know how far that'll get you at a strip club in Miami. I have no personal experience, but I don't think it would go very far. Really briefly on the ramp story, just to kind of add a couple of quick notes here for folks.
Yeah.
The company is now on an annualized revenue run rate of 700 million, up from 300 million before. I thought that was very impressive.
Times 20 is 14 billion, and you said the valuation was
13.
And we don't know their growth rate, though, do we?
We don't know their growth rate recently. We also don't know their gross margins because we're talking about payments to some degree.
What was do we have any number of revenue from 2010, 2012, a whisper number 2013? That would be interesting because then we could do the 2-year growth on average, which wouldn't be perfect, but we should assume this company is growing greater than 30% year over year.
Yes.
In order to get a 20 times top line revenue. Remember, that's price to sales, not price to earnings. So on a price to sales basis, this is 20 times. Palantir kind of broke all records with like whatever it peaked at, 60, 70, 80 times their top line revenue with, I think, 30 or 40% growth. Companies like Airbnb and Uber might be trading at 2, 3, 4 times growth, and those are incredible businesses. So just to give people some context here, private companies do get great price to sales ratios. Meme stocks that have great leadership and great products can get a great, an otherworldly price to sales ratio. But eventually, these are going to come down to the price to earnings, which is their profits, as you pointed out.
Found some stuff for us here. Before it turned 3. So in March of 2022, the company had reached 100 million in annualized revenue.
Okay.
And summer of 2023, that was 300. Now it's 700.
Doubling.
I would,
or 50% to doubling probably.
Very impressive. And then I just want to throw in one more thing. Secondary, Jason, $150 million with the secondary takes a lot of pressure off the company to go public. Even by current standards of 500 million in revenue before you go public, it's above that. We're not going to see an IPO for a while. I was trying to sort out why. I was reading some stuff from Charles Hudson, Precursor Ventures. Love that guy. And he had a great post about this. We'll add that to the list, Maddie. And he's had a blog post about this. He had a couple of things that I want to just say. One was he's not sure that these companies' leadership teams really see the benefit of going public, and the emergence of secondary liquidity for founders and early employees means you no longer need IPOs. And I think those things combined with the fact that companies are going faster and therefore they're creating value more quickly. And therefore, why would you want to let your amazing business go public and lose control over it? So I think there's a lot of things that are coming together to allow companies like Ramp to do this. Even if you and I would love to see an S1, I don't think the people with money in Ramp are in a hurry. So strange times.
There are reasons to go public, even with this vibrant private market. We can stay private forever. Liquidity to do bigger transactions, M&A, but because M&A was taken off the table, you took that public currency as a weapon off the table. Better hygiene and a more fluid liquidity market would be the other reasons. But again, as you point out, the private markets reward this. The question is, can the LPs, who are early investors, liquidate to somebody else? And we saw this with Stripe. I think, was it Stripe that Sequoia famously had in the earliest funds? I believe it was even in the Scouts fund that I did Uber in, and I think Sam Altman did it. They offered their later stage funds to buy that 12-year-old position or whatever it was. And so that was like really interesting because now you've got the same firm selling to a different LP base under the same moniker, Sequoia. And you just have to sign off on that. You have a little more paperwork, back to wet signatures. So people understand like, hey, and this happened, I think, with also SpaceX folks, earliest stage fund in there, and then they offer their other LPs who might want access to it. So now you're going to have funds buying and selling in the same round. This would be the equivalent of me selling to Masa personally as a Sequoia scout, and then buying from, let's say, launch fund in the secondary before it goes public. I didn't do that, but that's what we're going to see, which is then Andreessen Horowitz, Launch, even other folks are going to look more like a market maker in some ways, selling their early stage investments to the same LP base or maybe a deeper pocketed LP base, but still part of their network. That's actually going to lock in for the top 6% of the country, qualified purchasers and accredited investors, all these wins. And what does it do? It locks out everybody in America who's not an accredited investor. Profoundly unfair.
Well,
this is where the Trump administration could do something with an accredited investor test and solve a lot of problems.
Before you get on that soapbox, I think that what's important to say is it's not just accredited investors, it's accredited investors with access to the funds that have access to the deals.
And so an even tighter subset.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, 6% to 0.006%. I mean, there's not that many VCs out there. All that's, to me, a little bit disappointing because I would love to see more public market appreciation for companies. But I'll just say that there is one company, Jason, that people say is going to list. Lots of news from Bloomberg and the information that Coreweave is finally going to go public. This is a Twist 500 company, raised $13.4 billion in total capital, inclusive of secondaries. But Jason, we talked about neoclouds, these GPU-based data centers that people rent to run their AI compute. And we've had a lot of questions about the economics because chips are expensive, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the information got some great information. That's terrible phrasing. I'll try that again. The information got some data. There we go. And
or
Coreweave,
as people in the industry call it, the disinformation. That's what VCs and CEOs call it in the private chat.
They do?
I would call it that. They do.
They why is that? Because they're salty at its success, or salty that they might get things wrong occasionally?
I think it has to do with the general standoffishness of the people who are building stuff in the world and the people reporting on them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The intersection of, the Dunning-Kruger effect and, they wrote about my company. Half the stuff is correct, half is wrong. Obviously it is. Journalists have half the information.
Yeah, well, people want to tell us more stuff. We could do a better job.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, so it's like any framing that I disagree with is clickbait. I mean, people have, hey, this is everyone. Yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah. So the information, they reported that CoreWeave's revenue in 2024 was about 1.9 billion, up 8x year over year. Super impressive. But here's the kicker, Jason. Let's play a fun game. I love putting you on the spot. Okay. Guess what CoreWeave's CapEx costs were last year?
All right. CoreWeave has raised 13 billion to date. They are going to go public at 40 billion. They are one of the top purchasers of GPUs. They got ahead of the line and they did this a long time ago. But you said last year, so in 2024, which would be a peak year, but they had to put those orders in previously. I'm going to guess maybe 5 billion.
My guess was 4, so you're closer than I was. It was actually 8.5.
Wow. Okay. It's a lot of GPUs,
it's a lot of GPUs,
whatever these GPUs are going for, 250,000, 150, I guess, depending on how they're spec'd out. It's a lot of GPUs. And as we've seen, people will keep vacillating between we don't have a use for these GPUs and we don't have enough GPUs to use. We don't know how to use them. We can't get this job done unless we get more. So both things can be true concurrently and we can vacillate back and forth because human beings are innovative little buggers, like we're going to figure out, I know how to do this with 90% less technology and less hardware. Congratulations. And then you're going to hit another roadblock where you're going to be like, you know what? We could have indexed every frame of every HD video in the world. And then made training data based on this. And if we make synthetic data or we do deep research and we do 200 web page analyses concurrently, then have 10 threads, put those deep research analyses together, and then we do another 10 to check the facts on those. Like that's what's happening with these deep research things is they figured out with the inference side, hey, how do we put all this inference to use? I know, we'll just have it fact check. Or by the way, now we're going to have agents running. Here's an idea. You did these 500 queries last year. We're going to do those 500 every day. Twice a day, 1,000 a day on your behalf, 365. And when you wake up every morning, we're going to say, hey, by the way, here's the interesting things that changed since you last did these searches. Just like superhuman now is going through and pre-populating and doing the summaries of your emails. Raul disclosed on Wednesday. Check that episode out. Go to This Week in Startups and follow along. He disclosed that they do those summaries even if you never see them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have them there. This is like pre-caching stuff, Very interesting. They're going to do your replies in advance. They're going to do the sorts in advance. In other words, things are getting so cheap that they're like, oh, there's extra inference here. Let's just do your entire mailbox. And since they charge a buck a day, $30 a month, whatever it is, they can do that, whereas Gmail cannot.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's already so cheap. You can do that for $1 a day. Oh my gosh. That's absolutely astounding. I spend more money than...
That's what they charge, which means they're probably spending 5 cents a day on this.
That's insanely cheap and very exciting. As a little addendum before we jump into kind of what we call Founder Corner, I think, why is Coreweave going public and why is it happening after we just said that no one's going to go public? The answer is the CapEx number, everybody. If you're not building software, you have to buy a lot of stuff. You need more money. You go public, you raise a lot of money. Tesla did this when it was public and raised bajillions of dollars very effectively and worked great. So I think they're going public to have a liquid currency to raise more money and so forth. But let's bring our dear friend Lon Harris on. Lon,
editorial director,
is going to talk to us about a founder hack. And this, Lon, is one that I adore. It's from Matt Turk and is kind of one of those, what if we took the world and turned it upside down ideas?
Okay.
Yeah, he he tweeted this the other day. I thought it was interesting. A few quotes and how they would apply to a few of our biggest, sort of most successful startup companies, tech companies at the moment. Don't do services. Well, but what about Palantir? Hardware is hard. Palantir, excuse me. Hardware is hard. What about NVIDIA, Apple, Tesla, SpaceX? Selling to the government is awful. What about Anduril? So generic startup advice is often terribly wrong, is his conclusion based on all of these sort of conventional wisdom gone wrong ideas.
Well, you got to parse each one of them. 2 of them or 3 of them actually overlap. And so hardware is hard, or 2 of the 3 kind of overlap. Hardware is hard, selling to the government is awful. If you look at SpaceX and Anduril, they're both doing both of those things. Hardware is incredibly hard. Tesla and SpaceX showed, and NVIDIA, Apple, of course, did it a long time ago, but that startups could actually do hardware. Hardware is hard is a warning. It's not necessarily don't do it. It's just going to be super capital intensive. And selling to the government is awful. The way I would say it instead of awful, which is kind of a nebulous word, is it's slow. It's slow. It's time consuming. So you put those 2 together. What that means is if you do succeed, you have a great moat. So incredibly hard to displace a company like SpaceX and those contracts because, gosh, look at how much has been invested over 15 years in that company and their technology. So it is good advice for founders to know that hardware is hard. It's great advice to know selling to the government is difficult. I can tell you in education, perfect example, the companies and the startups that tried to sell to the government for education had a really hard time.
Yep.
The cycle was incredibly long, incredibly slow. The people who then sold directly to consumers, Duolingo for language, Brilliant.org, one of our startups for math, programming, et cetera, or in the healthcare space, Fitbod and NutriSense and Calm from our portfolio did wonderfully. And you can actually hybrid this, Lon. Sell to consumers first, perfect it, and then upsell to the government. So if Calm.com, I think Calm.com and some of those other folks in the wellness space now, they are going to sell not just to consumers, but maybe they get covered by healthcare in their second decade. So you can kind of thread the needle, which is get that immediate feedback from customers, make it work with them, and then the low, slow, methodical, larger purchase orders from corporations can come in after that. Tonebase, another one, selling directly, to sell people how to play musical instruments. I'd love to see Tonebase at some point, a college or a high school could offer Tonebase and Brilliant to their entire student population. And then if the students use it, they pay. or the school pays, for, whatever, 10,000 a year to have Brilliant available to all 1,000 students. $10 a year is a lot less than $10 a month.
Yeah.
You get the idea. So
I was reminded a little bit of what Castellian was saying, Brian from Castellian, when he was on the show a few weeks ago, because they obviously, as a defense contractor, this is a huge issue for them. It's very difficult to do sort of open R&D like you normally would as a startup, because your products have to sell to this one buyer that has very specific tastes. But he sort of suggested that that's starting to change, that the government is starting to understand better about how to work with startups and sort of modify some of those difficulties. So we may be in sort of a hybrid adjustment period for this overall.
I want to bring up, though, some more comments about this. So Blake Scholl is the guy behind Boom Aerospace. We've talked about this company a lot on the show. Boom is building a supersonic jet. Someone did a tweet a couple of days ago in a similar vein that said, oh, so the whole hardware is capital intensive bit is basically fake. And they have a table that shows that Uber and Databricks and Stripe and OpenAI raised bajillions of dollars, often more than companies that are building physical things. And Blake had a really interesting kind of quote tweet to this. He said, Boom has raised just over $600 million. So far, we've done a boomless supersonic jet and designed a supersonic airliner. And here's the thing. If I knew on day one what I know today, we could have done this for $200 million.
Yep.
If we execute well, we can ship with less VC than any of these companies. That to me speaks a lot about maybe people did take the hardware as hard as more of a warning off, Jason, as opposed to just a warning.
Yeah, I mean, and also hardware is getting easier is the other corollary to this. Why? Well, it's always a race to the bottom, and sensors are available today for a price that they weren't available 20, 10, 5 years ago. If you look at a company like Whoop, they are on the backs of the Apple Watch, the Fitbit, which is on the back of the phones, which is on the back of, PCs and laptops. You can go backwards and just follow that trend line to now. If you look at an Arduino, which is a PC on a stick, these things have become more powerful every time and cheaper. The Mac Mini M4 is just this incredible testament to this, because you can get into one of these, I think, for $500 or $600, and the power it has, I believe, with like a decent amount of RAM in it, it's basically the most powerful Mac you can buy. So the most powerful Mac is the entry level, cheap, little tiny box of one, and you can get in. I like hardware as a service, where the hardware is abstracted into a fee, which is what Whoop has done. And so here's the Nano family of Arduinos. This open source project, open source hardware project, has had a profound impact, I think, on how a lot of founders look at this, which is if you can, what is there's a canonical Arduino. Like there's one that is the one they kind of suggest everybody buy. That's like the
Arduino plug and make it kit is $90. And then if you want they have a lot of stuff. You can
literally run a PC for $100 today. I mean, that's just crazy. And it's a PC that can do 95% of what people need to do.
They have a little bit of the Chinese car problem, which is that all the names are very long and have numbers in them. And I'm not quite sure which one's the one, Jason, but hundreds of dollars at most. It seems to be very affordable to your point.
All right, let's see what do we got next? Yeah, the Raspberry Pi. I was saying Arduino. Maybe I meant Raspberry Pi. Yeah.
We do have one more. We got one more founder hack if you want to jump into that one. It actually comes from a friend of the show, John Collison. He was on the Million Stories podcast not long ago. Of course, co-founder and CEO of Stripe. So Collison speaks about chess champion Magnus Carlsen, and I quote, "He knew the most chess trivia out of anyone in this contest, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the world's #1 player has also studied the most about chess history." And then he sort of opens this up directly to talking to founders. I think you have to be curious about what is required to run a good company at that stage. One thing we try to do is just spend a lot of time looking at all the other companies and what they've done. Not that you want to blindly emulate them, but you should at least understand them. And then, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is why I tell young people who I meet when they ask me for advice, read all the biographies. Read all the biographies. And I'm actually buying the biographies I've already read and started putting them on the wall behind me, which I'm about to paint. Because when you read the biographies, you learn how other people did it. You might like this one down here, something like an autobiography. I put that up there for you, Lon. That is one of the original copies of the Akira Kurosawa biography.
Oh, there you go.
Something like an autobiography.
I've
When I
never
was in
read
my
it.
film studies phase, I like that one because the lesson I took from Akira Kurosawa was Toho Studios was very famous for using collaborations between the same artists. So Toshiro Mifune and other actors and actresses, screenplay writers, they would go to an onsen in the mountains. They would write the screenplays with the actors there. They would workshop them. And then they would go back to the studio where they were employees. They were employees of the studio. They were paid a salary every year. Yeah. And then they would work on all these great movies. What that did was you had this serial team. And serial team is one of the 13 factors we look for when we're investing in companies. A serial team is so great because, we all worked at Oculus. Now we work at Anduril. We all worked at Uber. Now we work at this company. We all worked at SpaceX. Now we work at XAI. That kind of collaboration and fabric makes you start on second base, third base. A really great lesson I learned from the movie business. Then I did Born Standing Up. And then there's On Writing, Stephen King's, and Born Standing Up is Steve Martin's. Those two you're going to get incredible lessons from. Steve Martin's is just about getting reps in, where he was working at Knoxbury Farms or something, or I forgot what the place he worked was, but in one of the early amusement parks.
Disneyland. Steve Martin worked in the magic shop on Main Street, USA in Disneyland.
The point was he also got to MC stuff. So he got comfortable being on stage and talking. Yeah. And then he eventually wound up doing arenas. He broke all of the stand-up rules ever. And then there was also something interesting about him where he started to try to learn other disciplines. So he's a world-class banjo player. He's written short stories and plays. That ability to move between mediums made him better at the primary one, comedy, right? So comedy, acting, writing, all of that, and music, all in his wheelhouse. So you can get so much from these different autobiographies. You have a favorite autobiography, Alex?
Wow, that was not where I was going to take this next.
With a lesson from it. How about you, Lon? I'm putting you both on the spot here. I don't know if you read all the autobiographies.
The one that comes to mind is On Writing. That book was fantastic.
I've read it twice,
because I'm a writer and I used to drink too much. So between the two, it's kind of like a direct, straight shot right at me. But Lon, what about you?
Well, no, but hold on a second. I just want to build on that. I've listened to / read that book twice. The best is when he's writing Cujo. He was writing Cujo about the satanic dog, Lon, so coked up out of his mind that he said he had to shove tissues up his nose because so much blood was getting on his typewriter.
Wow. Okay, so while we're doing stories from that book, one of my favorite bits is when he goes out to the garage with this huge can of beer empties and he sees all his other bags of empties and he goes, I'm an alcoholic. And then he goes, not how do I fix this, but how do I keep it from my family, which is the most alcoholic logic that is, in the history of the world.
All addicts are liars. Lon, what do you got for us?
I'm looking up the name because I'm glad. Oh, here it is. Adventures in the Screen Trade, which is William Goldman, the screenwriter. Ooh. That's his. He wrote The Princess Bride very famously. A lot of other great films. It's basically just like Hollywood stories and how he sort of came up and got into the business. The title's a pun on that. Dylan Thomas, Adventures in the Skin Trade. But it's just, if you like classic films, you want to hear stories about behind the scenes at Butch Cassidy or All the President's Men or all these other classic films he worked on. It's a great book, and he's a very entertaining kind of writer. So it really goes quick. It's a great read.
I want to just before we wrap on the serial teams point that Jason made. While I was prepping the section about Ramp, I was going back through the founders' histories, and I had forgotten that Eric and Kareem and Gene, the three founders of Ramp, had been either co-founders or employees at a company called Paribus, which they later sold to Capital One. So they are an example of a serial repeat team. And I think, back to my point about how did this company go from being and also ran to the leader in the category, probably that was an accelerant.
Absolutely. When you are a serial team, you will, I would say, go, 30% faster as a team, and you're going to make 50% less errors, as we saw with the Boom founder's point, right? He said, I could do this for 2/3 less money because you wouldn't make the same mistakes. All right. Rapid fire. I just did a tweet for my subs, which are my subscribers, which now there's 1,500 subscribers, by the way, Lon. I don't know if you're following this. Meshuggah would be the people. Meshuggah.
A Meshuggah is like a wild, unpredictable, out of control person. Okay. Mishigas is like a chaotic
following this Mishigas.
All right, let me read some questions before we get too far down the linguistic rabbit hole here. Okay, Charles Scott wants to know, how are you liking Austin? I've lived there for 6 years and we loved it.
I love it here. The reason I love it here is because there is a sense of there's a sense that you can change the world for the better. It's like a very adventurous, dare I say, California in the 90s and 2000s approach before I think that state went into what I'll consider, like spiraling the drain, so to speak. Everybody here feels like they're going to change the world. There's a sense of optimism. And so everybody I meet, what a weekend I had. I went clay pigeon shooting yesterday at another ranch. Saturday night, I went to the UT game, sat courtside with my friend Bill Gurley, and just doing stuff. Everybody's very active here doing stuff and having fun. So I'm just very active here on the ranch. I had somebody over Friday afternoon for a cocktail, and we hiked the ranch and all this kind of stuff. So it's just a very positive, enthusiastic place. And we're building a studio here for the podcast, and we're building an incubator space, and I'm moving a bunch of employees here. So including Lon will be here shortly. When do you think you're going to get here, Lon? You're coming out for South by?
Yeah, I'm coming in in 2 days. I'm flying in just for the week. But I'm going to look at places while I'm there. I'm hoping to find the place I like. I was too close. I was looking too close to downtown when I was there before.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not 25 anymore. I don't need to live like, right above like a cool like hangout place right next to where the swap meet is. I got to get a little further south.
Okay. The rabbi asks me when Rabbi Mordecai, who's my rabbi, by the way.
We all love him. He's fantastic.
He's great. He's the digital rabbi. He's at the what's the synagogue in Brooklyn, the famous one.
That's the wrong Jew, man.
It's the famous one for the
Chabad.
Yeah, the Chabad. He gave me a tour of it, like where they. It was really cool. He showed me like the original internet. They basically would have the services go out over the phone, and then people would like take their phones and daisy chain them. So they didn't have to have like long distance fees because it would have been prohibitive to do it.
Wow.
So, like New York's calling Jersey, Jersey's calling Boston, Boston's calling Toronto. You get the idea. And they built like over the phone system a way to create like an internet radio station. He showed me the original room, which they have there preserved.
Wow.
It was really cool. And he asked me when I'm going to come over for Shabbat. I will come over for Shabbat. I promise. When I'm in Brooklyn, I have to get out there to go see my dad, who's, had a couple of health issues. So I look forward to Shabbat. I could use it actually. All right. Let's just go down the line here. Read me some more of these. I'll do a lightning round.
All right. What's the best domain name you currently own? Mr. Rob Schutz wants to know.
I would say inside.com, Mahalo, and Kokua. Kokua is a great one. Kokua.com is probably the third most important. I think it's Aloha, Mahalo, and Kokua are the three most cherished words in the Hawaiian language. And Kokua is to help or to guide. And so, my final act is going to be to build that website, which I won't tip my cards, but a way for people to help each other is my concept there, broadly speaking.
Luke Miller, or Myler perhaps, wants to know where to get your Do the Work neon sign.
That was custom made for me. It's in the barn. It's in the equipment barn, and I'm going to put it back up here. We made it custom. But I guess I should make it, and I'm going to put it behind me after I put it in the studio.
We don't have Twist merch. We could use Twist merch.
Yeah, we should do that. If there's a merch company I can outsource this to, I'm happy to cut you in on it. We'll do a Twist merch page for sure.
All right. Chef Derek.eth wants to know, Jason, how many hours have you studied Bitcoin for?
Oh, Bitcoin historically? Well, let's pull up the first Bitcoin mention, I think, on this podcast. If you look in 2011, and I think because of podcast AI, we can actually do that search, but we had a Bitcoin, and I wrote a famous Bitcoin piece, The World's Most Dangerous Currency, or the most dangerous open source project, I called it. Most dangerous open source project.
I found it. Yeah, here it is. It is from 2011. It's on Hacker News.
So look at the price of 2011 for crypto. I think this is like, if you want to understand how long I've been covering this. And yeah, if you can pull that live, you can just show the thread there. But 2011, what was the Bitcoin price? If you had listened to this podcast in 2011 and just bought some, and we did, and I bought on a private exchange that got hacked and I lost it. And then Jade bought, and man, we made a fortune on Bitcoin. But what's the Bitcoin price in 2011 here?
I will do that now, Jason. I was getting that on screen for you.
Oh, there you go. Ha! Oh, fuck. Calacanis is on the Bitcoin promotion train now. That's hilarious.
Looks like in February 2011, it crossed $1.
Beat me to it, Lon.
Just a few months later in May, it briefly exceeded $8.
Oh, okay. There you have it, folks. Let's keep going. I just don't want to FML right now.
Okay, hold on. I'm juggling tabs.
I've got one from @Chef Lizette. What was your strategy in releasing your pods this week in startups and all in?
What is my strategy for releasing them?
I'm guessing it's just like, why do podcasts in addition to all the other stuff that you are busy doing?
I mean, I'll be honest. Everything I do now is for my own personal enjoyment. And then number two, to kind of hit my life mission right now, which is currently defined as to inspire and support founders. That's it. So if I had a mission, that would be it. And I enjoy spending time with Alex and Lon, chopping up the news. I'm addicted to innovation. I'm addicted to startups. Let's be honest. The only thing I like to do more than this is go skiing with my daughters, play cards with my friends, sit courtside at an NBA game. I mean, that's kind of like the things I enjoy most. So, I mean, I am, pinching
or an
myself.
NCAA game. You're a Longhorns guy now.
I am a Longhorns guy. I'll take you, Lon. And breaking news. I am going to, I think, teach a course at UT. So I think I'm going to adopt my Founder U curriculum and/or do a version of Jeffrey Pfeiffer's Power course, which, of course, they wrote a case study on me. You can pull it up, but there's a case study on me from Stanford Business School, Lon. And it was kind of like half a dig. The professor's like, I've never seen somebody accumulate so much power who I didn't expect to.
That is an epic back of the hand compliment. And here it is.
I believe
and here it is. A case study in creating resources. Resource is a fancy way of saying power, but Jeffrey Pfeiffer, if you go to GSB, the Graduate School of Business at Stanford, the hardest course I understand to get into is his course on power. So I'm thinking of adapting that and doing one on how to build a career, a life. I've always wanted to be a professor, and this would serve a dual purpose because then I could be Prof. J. And troll another professor. I could be Prof. J.
Yes,
here it is. I think we have enough profs in the technology podcast business.
Give me another question. Here we go. Lightning round. Keep it going. I like this because you know what? This is for my fan base. 1,500 people are paying $3 a month. 100% goes to charity. 1,500 times 36. We're talking about $58,000 right now going to charity. I'm going to make the first charitable deduction shortly.
That was actually one of the questions, which is, what charity are you going to give money to?
It's a great question. I'll do it on a whim, I think, and I'll probably do it in chunks. I want to give it to an individual and have them smile and really feel great, and maybe somebody who needs it. So I'm thinking like, I don't know, an Uber driver, a DoorDasher, a barista. Somebody who might
do the Mr. Beast bit. This is how Mr. Beast grew his audience.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jimmy, so I'll do it as a tribute to Jimmy, maybe, where And by the way, for people who are so fucking cynical that they're like, oh, so we have to pay your tip for your Uber driver. I am a 50 to 200% tipper across the board.
It's true.
I give the most obnoxious, ridiculous tips in the world already. This will be an even more obnoxious tip on top of my already obscene tipping. I'm not going to use this as a way for me to curry favor. And by the way, I think the chances of me getting the same waitress or, DoorDash or whatever is like 0.001%. So, yeah, I might let the subs pick. Yeah. I mean, listen, Angel University, pull up the Angel University website because I should actually give a promo for it. Angel University, I started doing this like where I teach people based on my book, Angel, How to Become Angel Investors. And, if I don't charge for it, nobody shows up. So I charge for it, $500 for the virtual, $1,000 for the one in person. I'm doing it April 23rd in New York City. It's going to be at a dim sum restaurant. And then I this has to be updated, but any profits from Angel University. So like if I host it at a dim sum restaurant, we take the cost of the dim sum out. What's left over, we donate, right? I've taught this course in the 7 years, I think 6 or 7 years since my book came out, 40 times. Every time it makes a little bit of money, like 5, 10, 15K. Look at all the places we've given the money to. At the end of the year, you may have seen me on Twitter, and you can look this up. Anybody need money for a charity? So somebody do a quick search of my archive on Twitter, and you'll find me and Heidi, who works for me, amazing Heidi. And in real time, I just ask anybody, at the end of the year, because I have to do it for taxes, any good charities. And then she goes, God bless her, during Christmas with me, because we got to get it done by the end of the year. God bless Heidi. She's amazing. I just say like, hey, can I help any? What would be helpful? I'm going to give 4,000 to each of 20 charities in this thread, 8,000 total. And this is from what time period? I don't know.
This is 2021, December.
Perfect.
So the market was hot.
Yeah. And so I just, and if you scroll down there, I think Heidi replies to people. And then people say, hey, this one, that one, whatever. The only thing I've ever gotten out of this, I'll be honest, was, I'm a big fan of Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. Yeah. I have an old pair of Mark Knopfler shoes. So they're probably worth $100 objectively. I think if I tried to resell them, I might get 200. But there's this Great Streets of London or something. Oh no, it's another. Type in Mark Knopfler shoe charity. There's a really great charity. I wanted to give them a shout out here, but anyway, what they do is they get celebrities to autograph their old shoes.
The Small Steps Project.
Yeah, pull it up. This is incredible.
On the way.
Yeah, it's so great because people. If you could, somebody read what they do. Well, I'll take a sip of coffee.
I'm trying to sort that out.
Yeah,
I was the wrong page.
Look at this. Look at this.
Okay,
it's for children who work at landfills across the world. Thousands of children live on landfill sites and rubbish dumps. They survive by scavenging. This global problem results from mass production and consumption. It continues to worsen as the production of waste is not sufficiently addressed by governments or large corporations. At Small Steps Project, we aim to alleviate some of the humanitarian consequences by providing emergency aid and sustainable solutions to child scavengers and their families, helping them take small steps into a more healthy and dignified life.
I mean, come on. What's better than that? They just buy people goddamn shoes. I mean, the most basic thing we take for granted. We got 10 pairs each. We take it for granted, and like, come on, man, that's gotta hit, right? That one hits.
There's that Anthony Bourdain episode where he goes to Nicaragua and visits the landfill where all those people live and work by scavenging, and it's harrowing.
It's harrowing. Well, anyway, let's make that the first donation. So go ahead and let's have let's do a little thing here, Lon, since we're doing a little production meeting here at the end of the pod. Can we get the person who runs that to come on the pod?
Sure.
In the coming weeks, just for 10 minutes, if they can, spare 10 minutes.
I'll see what we can find out. I think I've got their name right here. So
maybe 10 minutes. We just have them on at the end of the app, and I'll just say a few words to them and give them a little bit of I'll piece a little bit off for them.
I'll reach out.
Try to do something nice. And if you have something nice, all right, give me 2 more questions. Your favorite 2 here.
All right. If you had $150,000 dropped into your lap, what would you do with it? And I think I know the answer to this, but I thought it'd be interesting because it doesn't seem to be a popular one.
Trump coin, obviously. Valet and Trump and Haktua. Well, it's so contextual. Like if you had $150,000, if you had $150,000 and you had $50,000 in credit card debt at 25%, yeah, you obviously pay the credit
card debt. I think they want you, Jason.
Oh, me?
Yes, that's why it's interesting. The answer is put it into the bank. I don't know.
I mean, that happens all the time. I don't really think about money anymore. I know it's obnoxious to say, but I do speaking gigs. I keep raising my speaking fee. I turn down 49 out of 50 of them. And, a speaking gig I get $75K for now for an hour, which is obnoxious and crazy, I know, but whatever. And I do it maybe 2 or 3 a year, typically wherever I want to go. And I don't even think about the money, I'll be honest. It just goes into some bank account here and at the company and, whatever. But if I was thoughtful about it, what would I, let me be selfish. Should I answer? Somebody reinterpret this.
I think what they're asking is, what impact would that amount of money have on your life? This is a question people
Obviously
often pose
none,
on.
But
Well, I don't think everyone understands scale.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have any impact. But it's like I said, I get a speaking gig, whatever. But if you asked me
for fun,
obnoxiously, like what would I do with it if I was being narcissistic and I cared about personal things?
Sure.
I would spend the $150K taking my friends or family skiing in Niseko in a blown out resort for 2 weeks or something and pay for everything. That would be, for me, super meaningful and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Lon, by the way, with your new position here, I think you may have to take on the Tyler role, which is when I roll somewhere around the world. I know you got a little anxiety about getting on long flights, but
oh no, I'm good on long flights.
You're good on, okay. Because I got a Singapore thing I'm doing, then I got a Dubai thing I'm doing.
I'd love to go to Singapore and Dubai. Let's do it.
All right, fine. Great.
Say no more.
Alex, I don't know if you can leave with kids. Would you go if I went to Singapore and Dubai? Would you come if I put you in business class? You get a sleeper seat or no?
Yeah, for sure. But I would just need time to prepare childcare. But yes, I'm in.
You would? Okay, great. There you have it, folks. All right, so we're going to do live from Singapore and Dubai. My guys are going to come with me, and then Riyadh. So it'll be a 3-city tour.
Just remember, anywhere in the Middle East, I'm your Greek friend.
Yes, Upa, the Canis, let's go.
We don't mention the ethnicity, the Opa,
Yeah, okay. All right, breaking news. Trump is live with Sachs right now. Can we pull that up? Take a look on YouTube. I'll give
that's not a joke. I thought you were making a joke.
I see it as a comment. I don't know if it's true or not, but if you go to the live feed, it's got to be live somewhere, right?
I'm looking.
Here, wow, JD Vance made a response for diplomacy. No, it can't be that. I'm going on the live tab.
Oh, this is maybe the what? Why is YouTube so terrible?
I mean, there's a live tab on YouTube, and then I would think Sachs or Trump on.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at them on Twitter.
Here we go.
X, excuse me, folks.
Next Monday Live, NATO. Maybe somebody's trolling us.
Yeah, I
don't see this.
Sachs,
wouldn't it be happening right now?
The thing that Trump's going to announce is the TSMC $100 billion investment that we had in the show notes. So I think we've gone on long enough that the production crew is about to start spitting nails at how long this is going to take to edit. So I think we should probably
wrap. Well, the last part of the questions you can do. Why don't we do this, guys? Cut the last part of the Q&A. You can bank it, or we'll release it as a bonus. Lon, remember I talked about like little bonus packages? We can just take that little production meeting at the end with the Q&A, tighten it up, release it as little Q&A with Jake Al, separate file, whatever. Okay, great.
All right.
So it doesn't look like he's going live on anything. I'm looking. I did a search.
No, I don't. I'm pretty sure that's just a person messing with us.
White House page. Okay, so now people are saying it's at the White House.
Okay, here it is. I got it.
Oh, it is real. Okay, sorry for doubting you. Pull up the live feed here. So Trump.
I mean, I'm looking at the WhiteHouse.gov. I don't see it.
Actually, my video is lagging. Lon, can you pull it up? Maddie dropped the link in Twist Taping.
Oh, okay.
Researcher Maddie.
Dude, Maddie.
I've got it.
Thank you. My video is just being bad because of this long story. David's wearing a suit.
Oh, well, that's what you do when you're the president, unless you're coming in from Ukraine.
and then you wear whatever you want.
I mean, talk about misinterpreting things. Like he said, I'm going to wear, the context is super important. He said, I'm going to wear my fatigues in support of my troops until the war's over. Oh, here we go.
David,
all right, let's hit play and listen.
Say a couple of words, but maybe you should go first because right now he's the most important man in the room. I'm sorry, fellas. Please. Thank you.
Who is this?
Much.
Thank you.
Great honor.
President.
Thank you.
Is this the guy? Is this the TSMC thing?
I'm a little bit nervous, so I have to pull out my piece of paper.
Well, it's on YouTube. Does it have a subject line?
President Trump makes an investment announcement.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the investment announcement.
This is the TSMC announcement, guys.
And so it's AI Ergo.
Put it on two.
Okay,
Do we rewind this? Put it on 2x speed.
This
That's
is
always
the
good.
100
First, I want to
billion.
thank-
They're investing
say
100 billion
thank
in
you
chip
to Mr.
manufacturing
President
plants over the next
to
40
give
years
me-
across
Yeah,
the
yeah.
U.S. That's what they're
The
doing.
world
great.
of chips, certainly,
Awesome.
but in the world, pretty much of business, nobody's done what he's
That
done.
is TSMC
For those
CEO
of you that are into
CC
that
Wei.
world, you would say, wow, he's a legend, but he is a legend, and it's an honor to be with you. Very great honor. Thank you very much.
Love it.
Welcoming
CC Wei,
from TSMC, which is
WEI.
All
the
right.
biggest there is at a
Fair
level
enough.
that
We know $100 billion.
can't even
This is
calculate,
what Trump
frankly.
does great. I
CC
give
Wei
him all
to the White
the
House
praise
for a very
in the
historic
world
announcement, which is a
for
tremendous
getting
thing for our
people to
country and
invest in
hopefully for
America.
his company. We're also
He's,
pleased to be joined by Commerce Secretary.
You can debate the art of the deal in his career before the presidency, but he does get people to make announcements, and I think some of those announcements actually result in money being invested in America. We'll see how he does. I wish him the best. All right, 4. Lon Harris and Alex Wilhelm. He's at Lon's, at LONS, 4-letter club. At Alex, also 4-letter club, ALEX, and me coming in dead last.
Dead
With
last.
5 letters in my
5
hand. I'm
letters,
at
Steve.
Jason. We'll see you all next time in this.